started here today. Today is going to be one of those self-guided tours a little bit. So what we're going to do, we've got as many rounds as possible, but we're kind of breaking it up. So we're going to do as many rounds as possible in 9 minutes, but we've got 2 of those. In the first 9 minutes, we're going to be doing as many goblet squats, which this point and this group probably don't have to do too much explaining. The one thing I will say is, for some people, like if back issues are a concern, for some people, holding the weight low is going to be better than holding the weight up high, particularly in the morning. So if you feel better holding the weight here and squatting down and tapping, you don't even have to tap to the floor. The depth is going to be up to you, but we're going down, maybe tap to the floor and come back up. What we just have to make sure, the difference between a squat and a deadlift is the squat, you're going to be more like chest up. So lots of knee bend, just as much knee bend as hip bend when we're coming up. And a deadlift is going to be some knee bend and lots of hip bend. So the difference there is that the bottom position on a deadlift is this, the bottom position on a squat is this. So we're still doing a squat. It's just you're holding the weight in a position that is less likely to give people that low back fatigue or pain. Okay, so that's the one word on the goblet squat. Next, push up. So you do your version, your variation of push up, whether it's knees down, anywhere from knees down or like hands elevated on a chair or a wall or whatever, all the way up to feet elevated on a so feet elevated makes it harder because it puts more body weight on your arms or on your chest, on your upper body. The last one of those, side bridge press. So you're on your side, pressing that bottom, so front, the side bridge from your knees, and then you're going to extend that bottom leg into the floor. So we're pushing out against the floor to lift your hip pocket up towards the ceiling. And we'll obviously do the other side as well. So that is 10 on each side. All right, so those are the 3 exercises. We're going to do those for 9 minutes. You're working your way through the rounds as at your pace, but we are looking for as many rounds as possible. Second 9 minutes. So we're going to take a 1 minute break in between the 2. So we do 9 minutes, 1 minute break, and then the next group is going to be SLDL row of any kind. So it might probably, if you have one weight, I would go like a wide stance row today, just something a little bit different than having one foot in front of the other. So you're going to be here pushing those hips back and you row in like this, and we would switch hands. So that's the row. And then lateral bound is either a step or jump side to side. So we're here, stick your landing, stick your landing. So that would be 10 each side. Okay, so that's our second group. So we'll worry about that in a little bit. But for now, let's go ahead and jump on the roller. And today we'll make sure we get the front of your shins. We're just rolling up and down the outside of your shin, kind of that meaty part. All right, moving up to the front of your thighs. So we'll just stay on the front here. So try to roll all the way up to your hip flexor. So you're going to move the roller all the way up to your hip bone. And then all the way down. You can also turn and roll the inside of that leg. And let's do the other side. Rolling that inside of that other leg. And then we'll go ahead and have a seat. Ted, did you see Tampa won last night?
Yeah. It's a good game.
It was not a horrible game. A little scrambly, but I just can't imagine what it would be like winning with no one there. And like maybe they piped in some crowd noise or something. I don't know.
They did.
Did you see the end?
Yeah, I did.
Did they skate the cup around the ice? I wondered about that.
Limited.
Like, you know, usually you skate it around, hold it up, people cheer.
It was clearly a different season.
Yes. All right, just rolling out your back. Last step here. Yeah, hopefully that's not, they don't get the asterisk, you know. This isn't the 2020 Cup that doesn't count. I feel like they still earned it.
They're clearly the better team.
Yeah. I was hoping for Dallas, just because one of my former coaches is an assistant with them. I would have liked to seen him win, but
They just ran out of gas.
yeah.
And Sagan had a terrible playoff.
He what?
He had a terrible playoff.
Yeah. Didn't it take him? It took him forever to score. His
Yeah.
first one. All right, let's take a knee. Tuck your tailbone down. So we're putting that big stretch down the front of this leg. And then we're going to reach up and over. So think about reaching over your midline. Getting a nice big stretch. So it's kind of, you're sort of trying to reach your arm up and pull your tailbone down. Let's switch sides. Yeah, it's just so different. Playoffs, it went to the team that could handle bubble life the best.
Exactly.
Like if you have to have the team of the most introverts. All right, from here, let's take your hands to the floor. Again, pushing your hips down. At the same time, you're pushing your chest away from the floor. And then let's go ahead and straighten that front leg. Letting your back heel drop down. So you'll feel a big stretch down the back of your front leg and a calf stretch behind you. Now let's take that knee back down to the ground. And from here, we're just going to rotate up. Trying to stack your shoulders right on top of each other, right on top of your hand that's on the floor. And then we'll switch sides and repeat the process. So if it helps you to bring that foot forward first, then you can take your hands to the floor. All right, straighten your front leg. They call this complex here, this 3 different stretches here, they call it the world's greatest stretch. So if you only have time to do one set of stretches, this is the one to do. All right, back, take that knee back down to the floor. And from here, we're going to rotate up. Always trying to keep your eyes on your hand as you rotate. So we should end up kind of looking up towards the sky. And relax. So let's go ahead and stand. We'll go feet wide and just work lateral squats side to side. So just working as low as you need to go here. You'll get a stretch and a little bit of work. And let's finish up with 15 bodyweight squats. So again, this is just going to be up to you, your pace, your depth. Play around with different foot positions, see what works best for you. Always making sure we've got a little pressure against the outside of your shoes. And good. All right, so remember the first group, 3 exercises. It's going to be a goblet squat with a push-up and that side bridge press. And we're going for as many rounds as you can in the 9 minutes. Okay, so we won't be too far apart probably, just because there's only 3 exercises to do. So work at your pace here. You can get what you need to get out of it. And we'll get started in about 10 seconds here. So grab whatever weight you need. Really, you only need weight for the goblet squat. Feel free to change that grip up as we go. All right, so let's get started with our 9 minutes in 3, 2, 1, and here we go. So this is set to count down 9 minutes, and then 1 minute, and then 9 minutes again. So we are on the clock for the rest of the time. Should take 19 minutes. Remember, everything is 10 reps. As you touch that weight to the floor in the goblet squat, if you're holding it low, it should be touching in between your feet rather than in front of your feet. With that side bridge press, make sure that the bottom of the movement is the side plank, is a good side plank. So we're not going down and touching your hips to the floor here. So you're just extending out. If you were standing up, it would be like you know, like a dog lifting their leg on a bush. So we're extending out and everything else stays steady. Making sure that the work there is done with the outside of your hip, not your side. It's not a side crunch. Okay, we're about 2.5 minutes in. Remember, you're going at your pace here. I would say my pace is not as fast as usual. So if you find yourself ahead of me, you're probably in a good spot. All right, we're 4 minutes in, 5 minutes to go. Halfway done. What happened, Ted?
Lost the signal.
Well, you're back. Good. Let's make sure on our push-ups too that elbows aren't pointing straight out to the side. So we shouldn't have elbows pushing straight away from each or pointing straight away from each other. We want them facing back in some way, shape, or form. So they don't have to be glued to your ribs. Those make it a really tough tricep push-up. But they should be pointing back in some way, shape, or form. 2 minutes to go, guys. Remember, we're going to wrap up this group, and then we'll be moving on to a different group for the next 9 minutes. And that'll be all for the day. "45 seconds to go." "10 seconds. 3, 2, 1, and done with that group. All right. So as you rest, we're going to move on. We're going to do 10 SLDL each side. So remember, whatever side is holding the weight, that leg is going to go back. Try to keep everything square to the floor, so we're not turning out to the side. We're going to try to keep your belly button facing straight down, and your back toe should also be facing down at the ground. So that's a pretty good indication. If you find that your back toe is facing out, you may be turning out with that. All right, so we've got a row. We'll probably do a wide stance row today, where your feet go wide, push your hips back, and then that weight should be almost right in between your knees as you pull your weight up to the ceiling. Last one's a lateral bound. It's a hop or step from one side to the other. All right, getting started with SLDLs in 3, 2, 1, and here we go. Remember, range of motion here. If you can get your hand to about knee level, that's good. So your hand should be going anywhere from knee level to mid shin. We don't need to touch the weight to the floor. In fact, in most cases, you probably shouldn't. This set's going to take a little bit longer just because we have 2 things that you have to do each side. So if you got 4 or 5 rounds in on the first one, don't be surprised if you only get 3 in for this one. So as you do that SLDL, you should feel a lot of work in your cheeks, the outside of your hip. No pain or fatigue really in your low back. If you're feeling fatigue in your low back, it's time to shorten up the range of motion and almost just do a little mini movement where you can really drive your heel into the floor and get your butt and the back of your leg to do the work for you. So that low back fatigue probably means that you're doing the moving with your low back when really we want your low back to be stable while your hips do the moving. So we've got to shift the movement about 4 inches south down into your hips. Remember, we're still doing 10 reps of everything. On that row, you're not thinking so much about pulling the weight into your chest or you're pulling the weight into your body as you are pulling your elbow to the ceiling. So just let that weight hang underneath your elbow, and the back of your elbow is going to take that weight up. So we're already about 3.5 minutes in. Like I said, this round will take a little bit longer. It's actually all 3 exercises you have to do each side instead of just one in the last group. Just over halfway. Make sure on those rows that your shoulders are back and down. So you want to keep good posture even when your hips are back, rather than letting yourself round over in your upper back. So I think we want to keep that Superman chest even as you're pointing it towards the floor. Two and a half to go. All right, last minute. Working our way through. Probably looking at finishing maybe 3 rounds here. Maybe getting into 4 if you're really moving. "15 seconds. Three, 2, 1, and that's a wrap. Okay. Thanks for joining me this morning, guys. Good session. Take a moment just to get your breath back. I've got to run today. Kids are actually going to school this morning, so got to run them in. But thanks for joining me. Good start to your day. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Thanks, Brian.
You got it.